All right, welcome into SportsBit Betting Insight today, Monday, March 7th. Paulie and Teddy. Deep dive will be Conference Tourney 101 and the big game breakdown. The West Coast Conference semis tonight here in Las Vegas. Also, the Metro Atlantic Championship. Iona and Monmouth will sneak in some NBA with Memphis and the Cavs as well. Who is this guy now? You shopping for new clothes, pink T-shirts, and now you're getting haircuts?
It is kind of strange, Paulie, I'll admit. I'll be the first to admit. But yeah, I told you, I'm taking this show very, very seriously. Yeah, I know I didn't need a haircut, but I'm thinking probably every 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks. You know,
Whoa.
We got to keep it short, man.
All right. I need one, too. All right, looking sharp.
Yeah, you need two. You know?
Yes, a motivated Teddy covers again. Very dangerous. The story of the weekend was all the upsets. Let's start. It's a hardcore four. We'll go rapid fire here for 4 minutes. UFC here in Las Vegas. Diaz beats McGregor. Tate beats Holm. A $100 parlay paid $1,469 plus 265 plus 330. The take back on this, Teddy, 14-1.
Yeah, not a bad little score off. But, again, moneyline parlays, I talk about it all the time. When you're looking at ways that you're realistically going to get a score, this is two fights. You're not talking about hitting an 8-teamer or a 10-teamer or a 15-teamer. You're talking about winning two fights. And the same thing happened in the NBA yesterday. I mean, if you want to talk about some huge upsets and some huge money line parlay paydays, but, when you're getting 14, 15-1 winning two fights, obviously you got to be pleased with what you were able to create. But, let's talk about these two fights. Diaz-McGregor, I had the squarest guys I know all texting me and calling me on Saturday. Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. McGregor's only minus 500. It's a lock. What happened, Paul? How did Diaz do it?
Well, he had to go up 25. Well, I can't believe they said that because he had to move up in weight 25 pounds. This is what we talk.
Square. We're talking about square bettors, buddy. We're not talking about the guys that actually pay attention to what weight class is he fighting in. We're talking about it's McGregor.
And they probably look at
he always wins.
Yeah, and they probably look at his record because he's 19-10 as well. So he moves up 25 pounds. This is what we talked about last week and agreed with Dana White. When a guy pulls out 11 days before the fight, you cancel the fight. You don't throw him in there against someone in 11 days in short notice. But he beat the hell out of him in the first round as Diaz was a bloody mess. But he said, I kind of punched myself out in the first round. And usually in the featherweight division, they can't handle those shots. Diaz, a bigger guy, was able to handle him, and then he chokes him out.
So what happens with Holmes Tate then? It wasn't fluky that Diaz beat McGregor. He got his face smashed in, but it wasn't a fluky result. The Holmes Tate result seemed to me to be a little bit fluky.
Yeah, she was ahead on the scorecards, and she was in complete control. She got lazy. She got caught in the fifth round. I know Chael Sonnen on ESPN went after her manager, saying, you cost her a ton of money. Why didn't you just wait for Ronda Rousey and the rematch? You wanted to go back in there, and she got beat, but she had that one locked up in the fifth round until Miesha Tate got her with the rear naked choke.
Yeah, but again, these upsets are nothing compared to what happened in the NBA yesterday.
Oh, my God.
Golden State, what were they, 90-1 at the Westgate here in Las Vegas, that tip-off at the Superbook. Minus 9,000. And they didn't just lose. They weren't in the game.
Oh, blown out. Blown out. Curry and Thompson couldn't make a shot. The take back at Pinnacle as high as 23-1. Darren Ravel from ESPN tweeted, one bettor at William Hill bet $3,500 to win 50 on the money line. That's a bridge jumper, and he got obviously lost there. But look at this graphic here. When you talk about the game, Curry and Thompson against Clarkson and Russell. Curry and Thompson combined 33 points, 1 of 18 from 3, and minus 10. Clarkson and Russell, 46 points, 7 of 13 from 3, and plus 19. And you, Teddy, look at these 6 losses now by Golden State.
Yeah, it's hilarious who they're losing to. But I want to talk about D'Angelo Russell for a minute, because all of a sudden, here's a guy that people were calling a bust about 3 months ago. His level of play has really stepped up since the All-Star break. He's starting to get it. And all of a sudden, the Lakers, the hapless bottom feeder Lakers, they're 9-5 against the number in their last 14 since the beginning of February. They pulled a couple of outright upsets. One versus the Pelicans. That's not a huge outright upset. One versus the T-Wolves. Well, if your dog's at home to the T-Wolves, it says what kind of a team you have. This one against Golden State is one that will stand out. By far the highlight of the Lakers season thus far. But when you look at this graph, the teams that the Warriors are losing to, they're not the elites. They're beating the elites. They're losing to the Bucks. They're losing to the Lakers and the Nuggets and the Pistons. And, some of it has been situational. But like every other team in the NBA, when Golden State doesn't have someone that they're excited about playing, they can be as flat as any other team in the league. And that was certainly the case last night.
I would love to know what they did on Saturday night with a 12:30 start. I bet they were out clubbing or partying or doing something. It certainly looked like it yesterday. Time for the bad beats. Illinois plus 4.5. They lose by 7 in double overtime. Teddy, you can talk about that one. And also the Missouri Valley, the championship game with Evansville and Northern Iowa. How about that finish?
I didn't like that finish at all. I had Evansville plus 1.5 in my pocket. And it felt like there was a magnet that was sucking that ball in. I mean, there's no way that shot, it was a bad shot. It looked like it was all iron, supposed to clang away 50 feet, and we're going to go to overtime with Evansville having all the momentum. Instead, Washburn, I still can't figure out how that shot went in, it felt like there was a magnet in the ball and then a magnet in the rim, and sucked it down. Plus 1.5 for the Purple Aces. They were not a right side. That being said, a very tough beat for Evansville backers. And I think the Illinois one's worse. You survived the first overtime. You're like, just anything. Somebody just win this game. Please, don't let it go into double overtime. Illini plus 4.5. They lose by 7 in that second session.
Yep, Evansville screwed around in the first half, down 17. That's what came back to bite them.
But look at the photo here that we got. Washburn yells louder, I think, than anybody that was betting on the game. And there were a lot of people betting on this game. This game had a ton of action here in Las Vegas. The line went back and forth for the tournament. The Missouri Valley Conference MVP, Washburn, 49 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds, and the shot that cost me money. Hey, we'll give you credit. You hit it, but I don't know. I'm still not happy about it. I'm still calling it a bad beat, even though it wasn't a bad beat per se, just a tough one.
Bad bets, plenty in the NBA yesterday. 5 of the 6 games, the Dogs won outright, 3 of 8 points or more. A money line parlay with the Suns, Rockets, and Lakers paid 420 to 1. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, when you have a plus 2,000 dog, and again, when calculating that parlay, I didn't have a 3-team money line parlay. I don't know anyone that did. On those 3 squads, but it just is being used here as an illustrative example about, no, you don't have to hit a 10-teamer, you don't have to hit a 20-teamer. There's three teams that won straight up, and you're getting paid 420 to 1. That's worth noting. That's worth noticing. But of course, and when you get that plus 2,000 to come through, and then you throw in a plus 300 and a plus 400, yeah, it adds up pretty quick, making it a very, very nice score.
Paulie and Teddy, Sports Bet. Up next, big game breakdown. A huge game for Monmouth. Is it a must-win? And we'll get to the NBA and the West Coast Conference semis. That's coming up on Sports Bet. Betting Insight today. Welcome back on Sports Bet. Betting Insight today. Paulie and Teddy. Time for big game breakdown. The Metro Atlantic Championship later today. Projected line. Monmouth 1 and 159 the total. Monmouth against Iona. The Road Dogs did well in the regular season matchups. Monmouth, a 1.5 dog on the road. They beat Iona 110 to 102. Iona plus 5 just a couple weeks ago. They ran out Monmouth 83 to 67. Teddy, is this a must-win for Monmouth?
It kind of is. I think Monmouth is on the wrong side of the bubble now. And when you think about a team that everything possible went wrong for them this week, and even though they won every game they played, that is Monmouth over the course of the last couple days. Okay, first, Northern Iowa steals a bid from the Missouri Valley Conference. That could be Monmouth's bid. Wichita State is now on the bubble, and guess what? The Shockers will get the bid before Monmouth will. Then, on Saturday, okay, UCLA, Monmouth beat them. Georgetown, big win over Georgetown. USC, Monmouth beat them. All those teams lost again. So all of these great non-conference wins at the time have faded. Their strength of schedule is down to number 175, according to the Ken Palm numbers, going into Sunday. And, of course, with the 55 RPI for Monmouth right now, 18-13 Florida is 54 Florida's getting a bid before Monmouth. Wichita at 50 is getting a bid over them for sure. And then on Sunday, to make it all worse, Army, remember, they beat Monmouth. That's the bad loss for Monmouth this year. They beat them 91-84. That same Army team lost 60-38 to Holy Cross, bounced out of the Patriot League. Oops. So all of these things, all Monmouth did was just survive in advance, what they're supposed to do in MAC tournament play. But all the things that went on around them have really hurt their chances. If they don't win, I don't think they're in, Paulie.
I think they're in. I think they're safe. 27 wins, 9-3 against RPI top 150. They schedule their asses off. I know it hasn't worked out lately, but nobody really played that type of non-conference schedule. Also, they're good for business. I mean, the bench players, the bench on SportsCenter, going crazy. And they've been on, and I think whether it's a play-in game, good for business, and the fact if you judge them and compare their resumes to the other teams that are just last four in or last four out, they have a better resume. And this is where they got some help, though. Syracuse, Pittsburgh, Alabama, LSU, all lost. Syracuse plays Pittsburgh. So they got a little bit of help, but some things did go against them. I say even if they lose today, they are in the tournament. Put them in, 27 wins.
Well, sounds like you and I have a disagreement on this one, Paul. But let's get to the WCC semis,
Yes.
West Coast Conference here in Las Vegas at the Orleans Arena. We've got a pair of games to break down. Let's start with Pepperdine and St. Mary's.
St. Mary's Lane 7, total of 133, 18-12 against 26-4. Interesting to point out that the teams got the day off after the quarterfinals because of BYU. They don't play on Sunday. But does Pepperdine have their number? Look at this graph. At home, they were catching 8.5, and they won 67-64. On the road, they were catching 12.5 and won 69-63. Plus 30 ATS in the meetings, also won as a road dog last year, and they've won outright as a dog in 4 of their last 6 meetings in this series, Teddy.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Pepperdine is a terrible team to lay points with. They went 4-9 as WCC chalk, and they lost 4 different times in outright fashion among those 9 point spread losses. But remember, they got wiped out before Christmas at Gonzaga, got annihilated. A road loss, I think they lost by 26 in that game. Since that time, against the big 3, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, BYU, they're 5-0 against the number, and they've won outright as a dog 3 times. 2 of them coming against these same gals. So, St. Mary's, this is a team that opened up the season. They were 12-0 against the number. They were the best point spread team in basketball through the first 2 months of the season. They're 4-10 against the number since. And they're going to have to find a way to deal with Stacey Davis, the all-time leading scorer for the Waves, 30 points and 19 rebounds in those 2 earlier wins combined. Look at this guy. He is a monster.
Also, St. Mary's didn't play well Saturday against Loyola Marymount. The second game, the second semifinal, BYU Gonzaga 3, 151.5. Also, road dogs with both wins in this series. BYU plus 7.5. They won, and the Zags plus 3 won 71-68. Is BYU at a disadvantage here because they're not allowed to practice or play on Sunday? Could this help Wiltshire and Gonzaga get the win tonight?
It really could, if you ask me. I mean, again, the more practice time you get on any given floor, the better off you're going to be. This is not a floor that BYU plays at on a regular basis. We're talking about the Orleans Arena here in Las Vegas. And the Orleans, I mean, you and I both know, Paul, but if you're not familiar with the venue, they don't have a lot of college basketball here. They have college basketball come conference tournament time, and that's it. So it's not like it's a court that everyone is familiar with or that they play on a lot. So that practice time really does matter. And, I mean, BYU's gotten into this a number of different times. When you talk about their NCAA tournament bids, they always have to play Thursday, Saturday. They can't play Friday, Sunday. And I understand that's fair enough. That's their religious beliefs. And therefore, the NCAA committee does everything they can to accommodate them. So does the West Coast Conference, with the fact that there were no games played on Sunday because of BYU. That also makes everyone in these tournaments a step fresher than they would be. It's not a 3 games in 3 nights situation. They get that extra day of rest. So the day of rest helps everyone. The extra practice time helps Gonzaga. That's not necessarily a good thing for BYU. But, I mean, both these regular season meetings came right down to the wire. A combined 4-point margin of victory in the two games. So the 3 that the Zags are being asked to lay here, it's not a mountain, but in a game like this, may not be easy.
Yep. Last game, and more on that coming up in play of the day. Last game, Memphis and the Cavs. Cavs 11.5, 204.5 the total. Was the revenge weekend a buy signal with the Cavs? February 20. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you were asking me. I mean, it absolutely was. Look, I mean, this is a Cleveland team. They got waxed by Washington a couple of weeks ago. They came back and they just blew out the Wizards. And you remember what we were talking about in the preview, how the Celtics stole one in Cleveland just before the All-Star break. And the second night of back-to-backs, the Cavs weren't letting the Celtics steal another one, but running away in the fourth quarter in that ball game. So maybe some buy sign here for Cleveland. And of course, it wasn't just the stars stepping up for the Cavs. Make sure that you dig deeply enough to see one of the major keys, and that, of course, is a healthy Iman Shumpert bringing some muscle and some smarts to the floor game. Look at the stats, Paulie. I mean, Shumpert, pretty big weekend.
And with Memphis, listen, you got a revenge spot and you lose to Phoenix again? What does it say about this team? Also, in that loss yesterday, they're already without Gasol the rest of the year. You know that. They don't have Wright. He's out. Birdman got hurt. They expect Tony Allen back. Yeager said that he could come back, could be back tonight. But 7-3 straight up in ATS without Gasol. They've led the league in bench scoring since he went out. We'll see what this team's made of. I mean, that is unacceptable and inexcusable to get beat twice by the Suns, Teddy.
Well, that's the craziest thing about it, is that they're in revenge against Phoenix. They get him at home. They get Phoenix coming off a win. And you watch the third quarter of that game, I'm telling you what. I mean, Memphis came out flat as a pancake. I mean, I think Phoenix went on a 20-4 run to open the third, or a 22-4 run to open the third. And the Grizzlies couldn't dig down deep to stop the tide, to stem the tide. It was a little bit bizarre. The mental toughness for Memphis is not there the way it was. Not there in 2016 the way it has been in seasons past. But I got to go back to Shumpert because I didn't, these numbers are worth noting for Cleveland. Look at Shumpert's weekend. He plays 65 minutes. And the stats aren't going to wow you. He doesn't score a whole lot. The rebounds aren't huge. The assists aren't huge. The steals aren't huge. You look at the plus minus. He's plus 51 over 2 games over the weekend, 65 minutes. It's worth noting that he only played more than 30 minutes 4 times all season. And then he plays 30 plus in both games this weekend. You have to wonder, maybe Shumpert is going to get his way into the starting lineup over J.R. Smith sooner rather than later. He was a starter for them last year, and he brings defense. They don't need J.R. Smith perimeter shooting. They need a guy who can be a rock-solid wing defender. That's what Iman Shumpert's capable of being.
Dynamite numbers there. Up next, the deep dive and topic of the day, Conference Tourneys 101, and the play of the day on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. We're back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Time for the deep dive and topic of the day, Conference Tourneys 101. We start with Rest versus Rust. Here today, the semifinals in the Horizon League. It's Wright State against Oakland and Green Bay against Valpo. Oakland and Valpo have the double buys. So will they be fresh or rusty? Green Bay, Wright State, will they show fatigue or will they be in rhythm? It's also worth noting, Teddy, these games are in Joe Louis Arena, the first basketball games there since 2006.
Yeah, if you were betting unders at Joe Louis Arena this past weekend, you did all right. There are some big issues with the shot lines, or with the sight lines for the baskets, I should say. And teams were not seeing the hoops very clearly in an arena that doesn't play. You don't have basketball games at Joe Louis Arena. You have hockey games at Joe Louis Arena. The basketball games are played at the Palace of Auburn Hills, 40 miles north of there. So it's definitely a situation where I think that the two favorites could be vulnerable, even though their opponents will have some fatigue issues. I think it matters tonight that you've had experience on a floor that hasn't been very good for shooting thus far. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see at least one outright upsets. And that's one of the keys to the early round. When it's a winner versus a team off a bye, it's always a matter of nuance. How do you gauge the impact of the win bringing momentum and familiarity with the venue? Or if instead it brings too much fatigue? And frankly, when it comes to these 18, 19, 20-year-old legs, I don't really worry about fatigue that much on the second day. I start to worry about fatigue a lot on the third or the fourth or the fifth days.
That's rest versus rust. Number 2, empty arenas, no atmosphere. So you see the ACC and DC at the Verizon Center. These teams that play tomorrow, their fans aren't going to travel. Why? They're lousy. They might win one game, that's it. And then you have, without an atmosphere, maybe with the background shooting, could be low-scoring games. The crowd's not into it. And you have, how about the Big Sky in Reno? I mean, this is crazy that the Big Sky's going to have their tournament in Reno.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, let's start with the ACC. You got NC State and Wake Forest. Okay, they're playing in D.C. on a Tuesday afternoon, and neither NC State nor Wake Forest is going to be alive in the tournament on Thursday. You also have Boston College and Florida State on the Tuesday afternoon, and maybe Florida State's got a chance to play a couple of days, but that's a long, long trip for Seminoles fans. Fans from bad teams do not make long trips when their guys aren't going to last in the tournament anyway. Nobody's going to be there. Excuse me. And we talk about the Big Sky when it opens, again, early Tuesday start in Reno. The 12 teams from the Big Sky Conference come from 9 different Western states, and none of them are Nevada. The men's and the women's tournaments are going on at the same time, hopefully to draw more fans. But I'll tell you what, look at this picture. This is what it's going to look like in Reno when Portland State and Northern Colorado tip off early Tuesday afternoon. A lot like this, although there will be some players and officials on the court.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be like. That's also like the WAC here in Las Vegas, too, where nobody goes to that with the Pac-12 and the Mountain West going on at the same time. Last one, it's the first tourneys with the 30-second shot clock. Coaches may increase their scramble range, fouling even later than usual, but with more possessions, could this lead to fatigue?
Definitely. I mean, look, we haven't really talked a lot about the impact of the 30-second shot clock. But when you do the math, at this stage of the season, most teams have played the equivalent of 2 extra full games worth of possessions compared to the regular season last year. They're a little bit more tired, a little bit more fatigued. That being said, with a 30-second shot clock, a lot of times the final minute you'll see these scramble points where, they foul, you put them on the line, the other team jacks up a 3. If they make it, you can get 15, 20, 25 points in the final minute. With the 30-second shot clock, you might even see this scramble range go out a little bit further. Instead of the last minute, maybe you're talking about the last 90 seconds. They'll foul even later than usual because the shot clock is shorter. And again, you have that same question, more possessions versus more fatigue. I do expect at least a modest increase in scoring based on the 30-second shot clock, based on these extra scramble points compared to what we've seen in conference tournaments in years past.
This was a fast show with jam-packed information. We wrap it up with the play of the day and money time. We go back to the West Coast semis. Gonzaga laying 3 against BYU. We will take Gonzaga minus the 3. We just won at BYU on the road in a hostile environment. We have the better team. BYU doesn't play any defense, and the Gonzaga fans travel well. They own Las Vegas. There'll be plenty of Gonzaga fans. The March pedigree, they make it every year for a reason. They're used to the big games. Gonzaga minus the 3, the play of the day, Teddy.
Yeah, Mark Few has done a lot of celebrating in Las Vegas. Based on this picture, we can expect he'll be doing it again.
Good luck out there. We'll talk to you Tuesday on SportsBit. Betting Insight today.